I sada imam posebnu čast također da pozivam gospodina Josepha Lowthera, direktora USAID BEP-a projekta ili projekta za bolje poslovanje, za unapređenje poslovanja.
Dobro jutro, ja ću pričati na engleskom. And you saw already one of my grammatical errors, which is the reason that I don't like to speak Serbian in public or anywhere else. First I'd like to thank the PMI Serbia chapter for organizing this event and for all of your efforts as volunteers to spread the word about project management. And I want to talk a little bit about how important that is. So I appreciate also the PMI chapter in Serbia allowing us to participate in this event and including us in some of their other efforts as well. Just a quick word on our project. We are a 5-year project sponsored by USAID. We ended in 2015, although USAID is now trying to gather some money together to bring us, to keep us in Serbia until 2017. We cover 3 main areas: business regulation improvement, public sector finance, which is mainly around the government of Serbia budget, and access to finance primarily for small businesses. Why are we involved in project management? Well, I guess it started when I was here for about my first 3 months in 2011, and after a couple of months, I said to my staff, in the government I'm meeting so many really smart, dedicated people, why can't they get anything done? And why are we so far behind on the reform process and still doing things that should have been finished at least 5 years ago? And as I got further into it and we started to work on some of the legal reforms and institutional reforms, we could see that there were some serious management problems. It's not the people, it's the systems. And so I did know about PMI from the United States. I've worked actually around this region quite a bit, and I hadn't made the connection between legal and institutional reforms and project management until I got here. I spoke with some of the leaders in your chapter, and we started to explore ways to work together. And partly because of that, we also, our project put together a grant, and we had a contest on the grant, like we always do, to do management improvement in our government partners. And that has obviously entailed project management as well as things like strategic management, change management, communications, monitoring, evaluation, etc. And that's gone pretty well. I'll talk about that hopefully later. I get to be on the panel, so I won't speak too long now. But I'll talk about some of those experiences, particularly in the Ministry of Finance, where I think we've had some good success applying some of these things. The system here in the government is really set up almost to fail. You really do not, we were talking about this last night, have the links between the different levels of government that allow you to know what needs to be done, what are the priorities, and stick with the project's program or even the overall mission of each part of the government, whether it's a ministry or an agency, or even we see this in some public enterprises. And program budgeting can really, project management can really help. And we've seen that in program budgeting, where having a structured approach where everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing, what are their responsibilities, when are things supposed to be done, what are the targets and indicators, it really has worked. Just in closing, I want to remind everybody, since you're living history, let's think about the history here in Serbia. This is a really important time in history. We've got some huge reforms to get done. It's extremely challenging on the economic side where we're working. You're working on everything from labor and employment legislation to trying to figure out construction permits to still trying to deal with the legacy of a lot of state-owned enterprises and what are you going to do with those. And that's really challenging But on top of that, EU accession negotiations, which are obviously a fantastic opportunity for Serbia getting into a common market and political system that's the best in the world and biggest in the world. It's a great opportunity, but a huge challenge as we think of all of the things you have to do to be able to not only be competitive in the European economy, but also align your political system, your legislation, your institutions with that as well. So it's a huge challenge for everybody. Every Serbian really needs to take on this challenge together. And I think too little has been discussed about how we're going to manage our way through that whole process. And I think from the very top of the government down to all citizens, we all need to understand how important management is, and obviously to really get things done, project management is a huge part of that. So PMI plays a very important role. We saw the numbers have increased quite a bit. I hope to see that continue to double every few years at least. And I look forward today to our discussion about how to apply project management all across the economy, and the society, but particularly in government.